of that, you somehow have found yourself with your back seemingly against the wall, surrounded by trouble, pain, sickness, and despair. You've been beat up, shaken up, and even at times written off. Now you are simply going through the motions. You know, going along to get along. Getting up because the clock has gone off. Putting on your beautiful white usher's uniform because that's what you do every Sunday. Robing up to sing in the choir because that's what you do. And yes, even picking up the word of God and talking to the people of God because that's what you've been called to do. Back against the wall, going through the motions. As we are wrapping up this election season, I'm sure you've heard the statement, we must energize the base. Energize the base. Get the word out. Pump the people up. Well, I came all the way across 2 streets to encourage you and to energize the base. If the church is limping, broke, busted, and disgusted, what hope has the world? It's past time to assume your rightful position. Stop whining and whining or whining and whining and whining or whining because things are not going your way. If you would but trust and obey, I believe that we would see a change in our lives. We've got to stop shouting on Sunday, dragging on Monday, tattling on Tuesday, wasting away on Wednesday, thinking about not going to worship on Thursday, fickle Friday, and sitting back disgusted on Saturday. Only to turn back around, paint up your pretty face, put on your fine suit, match your shoes and your handbag, your jewelry and your lipstick. Coming into the house of God, think you're fooling somebody. You might fool me for a little while, but you can't fool God at all. We need to stop playing. Don't you realize that God has given you power? You don't have to suffer as the world suffers. You don't have to walk around with your head down as the world is walking around. You don't have to guess and wonder what's going to happen next. Even though you may not know what time, you may not even know when. But the word of God says that if my people who are called by my name would seek my face, humble themselves and pray, you will what? Hear from heaven. And he will do what? Heal your land. Last I checked, the God I serve is still in control. He shall reign forever. Matthew chapter 16, verse 13, Jesus is asking a question. Whom do men say that I am? Some say thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah's, or one of the prophets. But whom do you say that I am? Simon Peter replied, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now get this, verse 19. Get it now. I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Do you believe the word? It's true whether you believe it or not. Take a stand. Start right now. Assume the position. It's time to worship. As we look at the text, we get a better understanding as to how we can gain victory over the mess that has become as a plague or cancer within our lives. So what if your parents were from the wrong side of town? Perhaps one or both were alcoholics or drug addicts, prostitutes, murderers, thieves, or liars. You are not doomed to the same fate. Maybe they had some off-the-wall reason for not serving God, but what about you? You see, just like Jehoshaphat had to decide who he would follow, so do you. For you see, King Jehoshaphat's name was Asa. And every time you turned around, he was aligning himself up with some ungodly person. For you see, he was seeking after fame and fortune, when all he had to do is trust God, because God had already said that, look around you. If you obey me, I will protect you. If you keep my law, I will keep you. If you stay with me, I will stay with you. Decisions. Every day we're faced with a decision. I don't care how saved you think you are. There's somebody or something somewhere that'll try the very of your being. It might be a word, it might be an action, it might be a look, it really doesn't matter. So you need to know who you are. And you need to know that you're not doomed as some who felt that they were before you. You don't know much about the enemy. Sometimes you can see them coming, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can hear them, sometimes you can't. But one thing's for sure, the enemy can make a dung heap look and smell like a flower patch. So you need to be connected and careful with the places that you dwell. Be careful who you lend an ear to. Be careful who you share the deep innermost pains and thoughts of your soul. Because somebody, and don't look to the side, don't look behind you, but somebody is waiting to take your hurt and take your pain, and yes, even take your good times and turn it around and twist it up and make it out to be something that you don't even recognize when you hear and see it again. Young folk, be careful about the music that you're listening to. Because that music that you're listening to will spark something within your spirit and cause you to move and shake about sometimes in ways that are ungodly. And before you know it, and quicker than right now, you're in a situation that you can't, and if we be truthful, you don't always want to get out of. It's only in the morning when you realize the mistakes that you've made. Be careful when you're riding the bus or sitting in the hall and your friends want to tell you, oh, don't worry about doing that homework and don't worry about this and don't worry about that. And we go to Reidsville High or Moorhead or whatever school you attend, and you're not really going to be anything anyway. And don't believe that mess. Because God has created you in his image. And if you can dream it and you work hard, you can reach it. And yes, there's even some adults who need a special boost of encouragement. You walk around and you drag around and you limp around and you hop around and you complain and you whine, get up! God's got the answer. But you've got to move from where you are. Assume the position. It's time for worship.